Damn, I was in that shit, man. I never had no dope like that before in my life, man. That's the heaviest shit I ever smoked, man. I mean, I smoked a lot of shit before, man. But goddamn, man, that's heavy shit. They tried to make me go to rehab. I said no, no, no.
129 people die every day in this country from a drug overdose.
I'm not afraid to take a stand.
Host Holly and various guests discuss the important topics about addiction and recovery. They are not quote-unquote experts, but just real people telling real stories. Any or no addictions are welcome. Recovery Talk starts now.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, thank you for listening to Recovery Talk podcast today. I'm your host, Holly. I'm super, super, super excited to interview our guest today. We have Brandon Novak. And if you haven't already, give us a like on Facebook for updates and upcoming shows. And you can find us on Spreaker and pretty much anywhere you can find any podcast. A huge thank you for all the support to make the show possible and to share that hope. And if you're interested in sharing your story, please message me at recoverytalkpodcast@gmail.com. So our guest, Brandon Novak, was a pro skateboarder by the age of 16. He traveled the country with Tony Hawk, and he was sponsored by Gatorade. He was actually the first pro skateboarder that was sponsored by Gatorade. He was in the group of members that surrounded Bam Margera, known as CKY. In his later years, he starred in the movie Jackass, which is an all-time favorite. Then he also wrote a memoir, Dream Seller, that became a New York Times bestseller.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry. I just got out of the shower.
Oh, that's okay. I was a little worried because your voicemail was in Spanish.
Yeah, it's a whole long story with that.
Oh, okay. I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't real.
Nah, it's real, live and in person. How are you, Holly?
I'm great. How are you?
Never better, man. I'm sober.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. I'm super excited.
Yeah, likewise.
Awesome. I'm just a huge fan, and I admire your courage in speaking out about this disease. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you, girl.
Yeah, you're very public about it, and we need that.
Yeah. So what do we say?
Yep. We only keep it by giving it away.
Absolutely. So, cool. You want to get into this?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and just tell us a little bit about your background and early childhood life.
Okay. I come from a rather extreme family, if you will. My mother is a nuclear physicist on the board of Mercy Hospital, just retired after 53 years of gainful employment, second longest employer in Mercy Hospital history. My brother currently is an attorney in the White House who practices pensions and benefits.
Oh.
My father never held a job a day in his life. He taught me one thing, if and when I go to prison, how to conduct myself. Unfortunately, died as a direct result of the disease of addiction. So I came from better. I knew better. I lived with that after-school special, if you will. I actually excelled at everything I did to make sure I didn't become my father. More importantly, become a drug addict like my father, because I saw what drugs and alcohol made him do to me, to my mother, to my brother, to my sister. Me, on the other hand, I got my first skateboard at the age of 7 years old. That night when my mother put me to bed, she said, "Brandon, what do you want me to do with the skateboard?" I said, "I want it in bed with me." She said, "Why?" I said, "Because if I die, I want it to come with me." It was like God had come down and handed me the Holy Grail in the form of a skateboard. I ate it, I breathed it, I slept it, I dreamt it. At the age of 15, I was designing my pro model for Pau Peralta. I was touring the world with Tony Hawk. I had a private tutor that went with me. At the age of 14, I was the first skateboarder ever in the world to be endorsed by Gatorade. They were flying me out to Chicago to the Quaker Oats building. They put me on one treadmill, Michael Jordan on another treadmill. They put all these wires and tubes down our noses and down our throats and give us each Gatorade to see the effect it has on different sports players. Somewhere along those lines, I got wrapped up with drugs and alcohol. You know, my story is my story, and that's all I can tell you. But I was never the kid. You know, I didn't come in like really suffering from low self-esteem. That kind of transpired later on in life, but I attribute that mostly to drugs and alcohol. But I wasn't the kid that walked in class 20 minutes late in fear that everyone was staring at me. I was the kid that walked in class 20 minutes late thinking that everybody was waiting for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So somewhere along the lines, I got wrapped up with drugs and alcohol. But I really always believed that social acceptability equaled personal recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go to all these treatment centers, and I could see it working for those people, but it could never work for me because I was so internally unique. You know, you didn't experience what I've experienced. You haven't seen what I've seen. You haven't felt what I've felt, is what my diseased little mind told me. You know, at the age of 7, you didn't watch your father cut your mother's throat. At the age of 8, your father didn't take you to the strip joint. When he was in the back conducting business, they didn't sit you at the bar stool. And as you would do shots, the barkeep would pour shots of ginger ale and Coca-Cola. And as I would do the shots, the girls would applaud. My father would give me that little approval. You know, so then that's what my disease would always tell me, and I would be in and out of these treatment centers all the time. And what I would do is I would loiter with the intent to recover. I would get a sponsor. I would get a home group. I fellowship fairly easy from a people person, but then he would say, work the steps. I'd say, whoa. Like, you know, overreaction at best. You caught me at a bad time on a bad way and a bad day. Now I'm been in like around 8, you know, and then like for the life of me, I left to my own devices, and what that looks like is Brandon attends Brandon's Anonymous, Brandon sponsors Brandon, and Brandon's God. And then for the life of me, I can't understand how I'm back on the corner of Eastern Avenue and Patterson Park in Baltimore City selling my ass for $40 for anybody that will buy. That was not my goals. That was not my dreams. That was not, you know, I had dreams. I had goals. I had ambitions. You know, I lived with that after-school special of my father, who I swore I was never going to become. Now I've been in, like, I don't know, 10 treatment centers. I've lost count of outpatients and detoxes. My mother has bought me a plot. People have taken life insurance policies out on me. So now I trip and I fall into those movies, Jackass. These movies break box office records several times over. I'm doing things in life that people equate to success or happiness, or some even dream of doing. But see, I suffer from this disease, and follow me here. This can't be debated. It's factual evidence what I'm about to say. If you're diagnosed as an addict or an alcoholic, that disease left untreated equals death, right? Fatal. But as far as I'm aware of, it's the only disease that I suffer from that is so powerful, it makes me believe the unbelievable because it lies to me in my own voice. So follow me. You diagnose me with HIV, I'm rushing to the hospital to get medication. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. Diagnose me with cancer, I'm rushing to the hospital to get chemo. I don't want to die. Fatal disease. Diagnose me as an addict or an alcoholic. I need a glass of wine or a bag of heroin to figure out what the fuck's wrong with you for diagnosing me with said disease. Just as fatal as the first two diseases, but left to my own devices, once again, Brandon's Anonymous, Brandon sponsors Brandon's God, I'll believe I don't have a disease, and I'll hang this phone up and I'll go get high. And the scary thing is that it will make complete sense to me. So now I'm in these social acceptability, personal recovery. Ultimately, what I was trying to do is fill this internal void with an external solution. I'm in these movies. The movies break box office records. I keep going to these meetings. You people telling my life's unmanageable. I believe my life is unmanageable. But then I do an appearance at a nightclub, and they say, Mr. Novak, what would you like in your green room when you're a rider? I'd say some heroin, some cocaine, some Xanax, and some wine. They would give me those substances. I would take pictures, sign autographs, and at the end of the night, I would get a check for $10,000. So, you know, I have that disease. It tells me I don't have a disease. My life's completely unmanageable, but yet my bank account seems pretty manageable. You know what I mean? But my delusional alcoholic mind tells me that the jackass world needs me. It cannot go on without me. I am an asset. In reality, the jackass world does not need me. It goes on quite fine without me, and I'm a liability. Unfortunately, I'm the last person. Now I've been in 11 inpatient treatment centers. My mother's bought me a plot. People have taken life insurance policies out on me. I've been medevaced to 4 different hospitals from 4 different states from 4 different overdoses. My mother has exhausted all opportunities, options, and resources. She's depleted several savings accounts. She sold 3 homes to financially pay for me to go to treatment. She has nothing left to give. She simply went to God with one prayer. That prayer consists of, God, please cure him, or kill me because I can't take it anymore. So now I'm not willing to go back to rehab because it can't work for me. But I see it working for other people. But I'm so internally unique, it just doesn't work. So now I decide I'm going to move to Helsinki, Finland. Right? It's literally across the world. I can regroup, I can rebrand, I can reassess, I can reevaluate, I can redo life, and I'm going to do it. They don't even speak my language, for Christ's sake. And I get on a plane, I go to Finland, I check into a 5-star hotel because from a very young age, my mother always told me, show me who you walk with, I'll tell you who you are, which transcended into social acceptability, equal personal recovery, which transcends into internal void, filling the internal void with the external solution. There's a pattern there. So I go to this very nice hotel, and I go right to the lobby bar, and I order bottle after bottle of wine. I meet somebody at the bar. He gives me a phone number. I call this guy, and I'm having heroin delivered to me. I go into the bathroom, and I call my sponsor, Lex, and I said, Lex, how did this happen? It was not supposed to be this way. I was not going to do what I was doing in Philadelphia or Baltimore in Finland. He said, well, if you have a second, I'd like to tell you something, Mr. Know-It-All, because I possess that job of knowing everything. He said, if you have a second, I'd like to tell you something, Mr. Genius. I said, what? He said, I guess you skimmed over the part where we talked about geographical change does not equal recovery. You can't shake your shadow. You take you with you everywhere you go. They talk about triggers. My triggers are when my eyelids open. I can justify why any time, place, feeling, sensation makes sense to shoot dope. Put me in Africa, I shoot dope. Put me in Finland, I shoot dope. Put me in Philadelphia, I shoot dope. It rains, I shoot dope. It snows, I shoot dope. He said, if you have another second, I'd like to tell you something else, genius. I said, what? He said, the drugs and the alcohol are not your problem. And I said, that's like a shotgun blast to the face. What do you mean they're not my problem? I've given it my homes. I've given it my women. I've given it my careers. I've given it bank accounts. I've even given it my sexuality, for Christ's sake. He said, no, genius, it's not your problem. It's your solution. Your problem is your thinking, your attitude, and your behavior. So I get on a plane. I come back from Finland. I go to I get back to Philadelphia. I decide I'm going to write a book, right? Now, I have no high school diploma. I have no GED, but I'm no fool by any means. I come from better. I know better. Mother, nuclear physicist, brother, attorney in the White House. I decided I'm going to write a book. I get my GED after the book was published in prison, and the reason why I got it in the joint was because A, I had the time, and B, if I passed the GED in the joint, you got a pizza party supplied by Domino's. So I don't know about anybody else, but that's a no-brainer. But here's the beauty in it. I aced that GED like a Harvard graduate. I did not miss one question. And looking back now, I can see why I did so well is because it was my idea. If it was the reason why I did so bad in so many years for so many treatment centers is because it wasn't my idea. Because I know everything, so when you tell me what I need to do, I tell you I need to fuck off. So if it was my idea to go to any one of those treatment centers, doctor's office, psychiatrist's office, I would have excelled at a rapid pace and been a billboard for any one of those places. But I decided I'm going to write a book. The book is published. I'm now a published author. No high school diploma, no GED. I take it a step further. I'm a published author who's written a book on addiction, an autobiography addiction memoir. I'm a published author who's written an autobiography addiction memoir and it becomes a New York Times seller. I'm now receiving hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail from all over the world of people like you saying, I read your book, I didn't want my story to get as bad as yours. I have 30 days clean and sober. People like you saying, I read your book, I understand when my daughter picks the needle over coming to have dinner with me on the weekends. It's not that I was a bad mother, it's because she suffers with the disease of addiction. My delusional alcoholic mind, the one that lies to my own voice, that makes me believe the unbelievable, just told me that I wrote the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous or the basic text of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm getting high while I wrote the book. So, the night my book's being released in Times Square in New York City, I have my literary agent there, I have my manager there, all my publishers there, all these well-to-do people in the scholarly world, but I don't have any heroin that day. And what I didn't know then that I know now is my people wouldn't give me any money because it would not be a good look me sitting here doing an autographed book signing on a book on addiction as I nod out due to being on heroin. But I don't have that disease where I could say, hey, not right now, I have to work for 2 hours. That's the joke in this whole story. So as they wheel my books in on this dolly, me and another buddy of mine that's with me from Baltimore, he doesn't feel well either. And we take one look at each other and we have a complete conversation, but we don't say a word, that language of the heart untreated, if you will. I stand up, he stands up in uniform precision. walk over. I grab 2 boxes of my books. He grabs 2 boxes of my books. We go right to the train station, get the next train from New York to Baltimore.